much, PQ, for joining us on Creative Habits Podcast.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So what inspired you to start your home garden?
Growing up, really, I've always been like around plants. My mom always had a garden. We was always growing something. So it just kind of been like a natural thing for me to be like surrounded by plants. I'm kind of a person, like once I get into something, I'm really into it. So I'm kind of, I guess, obsessive. So that's why it's so much now. But yeah, I think it's just natural for me to always be surrounded by plants.
That's awesome. So how did Plant Ed evolve? When did you decide your exploration and interests deserved its own Instagram page?
So, like I said, I've always had plants. I've always like posted about them, I guess like on my main page. And Planted evolved because like people always ask me like the same questions, and like they was like, how can I, grow this? What is that plant called? And I was like, let me just dedicate a page to just giving out information that's easy to digest, because like even when I look up some stuff about plants, it can be like too much, and you get into like the Latin names, and like, you get conflicting information. So I was like, let me digest the information that I learned and just kind of give it to people in an easy way they can just pick it up and run with it. So that's how Planted like really started. I was just like, let me just do it because I'm already doing it, so let me do it for real.
That's pretty awesome. My partner and I just started to get into plants and just, trying to beautify the space.
Mm-hmm.
But what would your suggestions be for those who are like interested in getting started? Like, what is the easiest plant to take care of that doesn't really need a lot of like attention? But what do you recommend?
The top three plants I always recommend to people, number one would be like the snake plant.
Mm-hmm.
That plant is a drought tolerant plant. It can grow in any conditions, high light or low light conditions. You can literally just sit that plant down and you don't even have to water for like an entire month, and it'll do its
Wow.
thing. The other plant I would recommend is a ZZ plant. It's also another drought tolerant plant. It's even more drought tolerant than the snake plant. So you literally like you can just put it up against a window in the corner somewhere. They both tolerate high light and low light. And then the third plant I would say is the pothos. That plant you have to give a little bit more attention, but like it kind of gives you like the satisfaction of like a vining plant. People like that jungle feel. So that plant gives you like the jungle feel, like if you get like a bunch of them. So those are the top three: the snake plant, ZZ, and pothos.
Awesome. Thank you. What are your top 5 plants? Which one do you like the most?
Uh, they kind of rotate, but I'll give you the bird of paradise. That's
Mm-hmm.
is behind me.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
you can't see, but the bird of paradise, a dumb cane, fiddle leaf fig, monstera delicioso. Did I say that right? Yeah. That's 3. Um, the neon philodendron and the ZZ plant.
These names.
Yeah.
That's
Like
awesome.
I'm pretty terrible at the Latin names, so like I'll go find the common name like
Mm, that's what I like. Like the common names are more memorable for me, but I think it's also important to know like the Latin version as well,
yeah, I
just for
can
the
read it,
education.
but I just can't pronounce it.
Yeah. No, I understand. How important are plants for mental health?
I think they're very important because like it's kind of like calming even if you don't even think about it. Like when you go into a room that's like full of plants, you're like, this room has like a lot of life, and it kind of
Mm,
brings that to you. Well, for me, it does. It brings it to me, and like that's why I like being surrounded by them. Because even if I'm having like a
mm,
bad day, I just look at my plants and just like that's just beauty. Like you just see
mm.
something beautiful. So I think that's one thing, to just constantly see beauty and see life, and you kind of learn from plants too, because like I've recently moved, and like I've had to figure out a better situation like for my plants. And it's kind of
Mm.
like the same thing with life. Like if you're not growing somewhere in life, you need to move.
Yeah.
Get out of that pot you're in, or else you will die, because the plant will die if you keep it in the same pot too long when it's outgrown it. So
Mm.
I think plants are kind of like a mirror of real life, like the best life that that's parallel to like nature. So
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I didn't really think of it that way, but if you think about it, like it's so true.
yeah.
So I also noticed that you're creative. You make jewelry and you're a photographer. How do you find time to balance your passion of jewelry making and jewelry design as well as photography?
So I started photography because of my jewelry. So
Mm,
I made jewelry first, and I started doing that back in 2015. I made these earrings, and my friend, she was like, "You should sell those." And I was like, "Nobody wants this." She was like, "No, girl, people will buy that."
mm,
So I made an Etsy page, and I just put stuff up there, and I got a lot of traction. I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll keep doing it." But finding time to do it, like because jewelry is like really like a hobby for me, it's a way for me to release. Like I do it at night, and I've gotten like pretty quick with it. So like
mm,
it's not a thing for me finding time. It's more like this is what I need to like decompress. So it's just a part of like my everyday life for me,
mm-hmm.
really. Yeah.
Awesome. What does propagating mean and what is that process like?
So to propagate is to basically start like a new plant, like you're making a cutting. You can either propagate via stem cutting or via like splitting at the root.
Mm,
And depending on the plant, that's how you have to propagate. So for example, like the snake plant, you propagate those by cuttings because there's not, you can divide it, root divide it, but like the easiest way to just cut it and you stick it in some water and you put it in some light and eventually roots will grow out of the leaf that you cut it from.
mm,
Another plant that's easy to propagate is monstera. You'll cut on the stem of the plant and there's these little things called nodes. They look like a little stump on the stem, and that's
mm-hmm.
where a root will grow from. So
Oh,
propagating is just a way to divide and multiply your plants. And it's the cheapest way to multiply your plants because I have a lot of plants, but I didn't buy them all because if I did, that would be like thousands and thousands
yeah.
of dollars. But yeah.
So, with all of the things that you're doing creatively,
Mhm.
um, what did you originally like study when you were in school, and like what are you pursuing as a career?
So I went to Howard and I studied civil engineering and I got my master's in that as well.
Oh wow.
And I actually work as a civil engineer. I
Mm-hmm.
do traffic transportation design. That's what I do. That's my 9 to 5.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like polar.
Yeah, it's polar, but I'm just like wondering if you can consider like, art and science kind of being
Mhm.
together, like connected in a sense. Just as far as like having to think of ideas and critically think and do trials and errors and just figuring out how things work. But yeah, I was just wondering, like, how are there sometimes ways where you have to tap into your creativity for engineering? And also, like, if you're working with plants, are there like things that you have to scientifically like figure out or calculate? How does that work? Like, how do you,
Like how they come together.
yeah.
So with engineering, you do have to get creative with your solutions because like the type of engineering I do, like there are standards that we have to, abide by just in general.
Right.
But sometimes you run into problems that you've never seen before, and you have to really think like, oh, what would I do that's cost effective, that can be actually be done, that can be implemented. So you have to think of different ways to do things. So I guess there's a slight creative edge to it, but it's within, standards that you have to
Right.
do things by. And as far as like making jewelry and like plants, it's I'm kind of creating structures, like little miniature structures, and they have to like hold the shape. And like I understand the concept of like if I bend this wire this way, I need the opposite thing to happen on the other end, and that's something like in engineering, like every force has to zero out or it'll collapse. So
Mm,
it's just something that naturally happens, as well as like hardening of metal. Like when you hammer metal, it hardens, and that's
mm.
kind of like like a physical reaction within what I'm doing. And then with like plants, like I kind of build structures to like add more plants
Still
in
the
my
same type
home.
of process. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I figure out how to hang things from the ceiling all the time. So
Oh,
I'm like, we
wow.
only have so much weight, so that's like a tiny calculation, but like
Mm.
that's kind of how those two worlds intertwine for me. It's just basically a critical thinking and solution oriented type life.
Very interesting. So I know that some plants are not cost effective for people that are on a tight budget. I
Mhm.
was wondering for our listeners who are interested in, just making their space beautiful, but have a really tight budget, what recommendations would you have for them as far as like purchasing plants?
So one thing you can do, you can go to Facebook Marketplace. People sell plants on there, so you can
Oh,
like cuttings of
uh-huh.
plants. Also, I mean, I'm not telling people to go steal, but you can like at Home Depot sometimes just have like pieces of like the leaves like falling off. And if you get a stem, you can regrow that plant from a stem.
Wow. I
Like
didn't
to
even
pick
know
up cuttings,
that.
you can do that. That's a free way to get a plant.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also, you can buy cuttings, like I said, from Facebook. I think Etsy, people on Etsy sell
Mm.
cuttings. Also, look into like the succulent plants. They sell like the tiny little ones. They're typically like $3 in like a Home Depot or Lowe's. Or if you want to go to like a nursery, like support like a local nursery,
Mm-hmm.
those are typically pretty inexpensive. Um, like I said, like for those plants, those top three that I recommend, those don't ever pay over $20 for one of those plants because they're
Hmm.
they're very inexpensive.
Okay.
So you can get a nice looking snake plant for like $15.
Okay,
So
cool.
don't don't
Anything above it is it's
because
not worth it.
I've been seeing the prices of some of these plants. I'm just like, wow, they're really getting over on people who don't.
Oh man. So outside of like people on a tight budget, what if you have no limitations as far as like what you want to buy? Where do you go to buy plants? Like which locations are your favorite to go to? Even whether it's purchasing or just like, seeing what's out there.
So here in DC, there's two shops I like. It's called Ginkgo's Garden on 11th. No, it's on I Street
Mm-hmm.
Southeast. Yeah. Also I like Lee's Flower Shop. She's on U Street
Mm.
and she has really nice plants. I bought like my first monstera from her.
Oh, I know Lee's. I've like
Yeah,
walked past it several times. I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah,
Hmm.
she sells plants and she's a flower shop, but she also sells
Yes.
plants. Like I love her flowers. They're really beautiful. And like on
Mm.
Fridays she has sales. Like I think it's like 20% off potted plants. So if you go on
Hmm.
Friday, you can get a discount. And then there's this other place out here in Maryland. I literally just left there. I bought some kale today.
Oh, nice.
What was the name of? Oh my goodness, I forget the name. Ooh, I can't remember the name, but it's another nursery. It's right. It's like off East West Highway, out like I guess on Well, that's gonna bother me. I can't think of it. I'm finna Google it. So I'm finna Google it really
Okay.
quick
Yeah.
because I know, like when I see it, plant nurseries near me.
Yeah, this part we can edit out. Like we'll shorten it once you find
Okay,
it.
Hampton Nursery. That's what it
Hampton
was called.
Nursery. Nice.
Hampton, yeah, Hampton Nursery.
So I know that you have a lot of plants. Are you satisfied with the plants that you have, or are you constantly looking for more plants to fill in your space?
I'm constantly looking, but I'm not as quick to buy as I used to be because
Mm.
I have so many. I'm at the point where I'm almost buying the same thing over. So
Uh,
now I'm looking for more, I guess, the quote unquote rare plants.
mm-hmm.
So I have like a wish list of plants, like a couple of philodendrons that are like on my list, and I want like this variegated monstera, but they're so expensive. Like I have like a
Things
wish.
that like a
Yeah.
wish list of plants that you want.
Before I would
Nice.
just go out and just buy whatever. Now I'm more like a little picky. I'm just like,
Yeah, it's more strategic.
yeah, I don't need another one. So yeah.
So, stemming away from the questions about plants, we always ask our guests the people that inspire them. So, I wanted to know, like, who inspires you creatively or just in general?
Um, I think my number one inspiration is always my mother, like my
Mm-hmm.
mom. I've every day like I realize how much I am her basically, but just like a iteration of her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, outside of that, my friends, they're very inspirational. Like, just seeing them like navigate through life and like their motivation and like what like their goals, seeing them reach their goals. That inspires me. On the creative side, I just enjoy looking at pictures of like Rihanna and like Kirby from
Ah,
Moss,
yeah.
um, Wale. Like, music also is like a big inspiration to me.
Mm.
Like Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye. Like, I'm always blasting jazz, John Coltrane, Miles Davis. So the inspiration kind of varies.
What's
Uh,
what's the best advice you've ever been given?
the best advice? Wow. That you know nothing.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah, pretty straight to the point. What book changed your life?
A book that changed my life. Oh wow. I would say Medical Apartheid is
Hmm.
because you find out so much. Like, I don't want
You,
to curse on your
you
podcast.
can.
Okay, okay. You find out like all the bullshit that has happened to like Black people, and you're just like, wow, like,
Mm.
this has been going. Like, you knew it, but like to read it and the fact that it was written down, like it was recorded as if this was okay.
Hmm.
I think that just kind of made me question like everything. I used to like,
Wow.
oh, that's a cool innovation within the medical field or like any type of science. And I'm just like, no, who did you test this? Like, who had to suffer for this answer?
Mm.
So I think that was one. Richard Wright's Native Son.
That's a good one. I really enjoy Native Son.
Yeah, that's another one. More recently, this book called Educated by Tara. Can't think of her last name, but Tara is the book is called Educated. I think her family was like Mormon and she lived in like the mountains up in like Idaho or something.
Hmm.
But it was a memoir and like it was very like eye-opening because it's a group of people I've never interacted with. Like, I mean, yes, I've interacted with white people, but like to a type of people who've been like isolated in the community and then what
Right.
she went through as a child, and like her ability to finally recognize her parents as humans and like the
Mm.
decisions they made, and eventually how she kind of not corrected her life, but like decided to live her life for herself. That was a good one.
Mm.
And I get in the last book, Heavy by Keith
Hmm.
Lamont. He's from Mississippi. That
Okay.
that was a good book.
What are your thoughts on 2020?
Woo! 2020 was 20. If we're still here,
We're still here.
I think I finally come to the word I would use to describe this year is stripping,
Hmm.
because I feel like it stripped away all of our false identities, our false sense of reality, our false like idols, our false sense of like of our false values. Like we put in our false like way of living. Like we put so much time into like work. The rat race. We're all on this thing,
Yes.
running the rat race, going, going, going. And 2020 was like, hold up. It's time. It's time for you to sit down and really look at what you've done and like what you've done to yourself, the earth, and that we're not like as isolated as we think, because like living in
Mm.
America, we're very individualistic. Like that's the way our society is set up. And I think like the virus and everything kind of showed us that we are like a global society, that we're
Mm.
not disconnected, and that we should return back to community as far as like living and thinking about what I do, how it affects you, even if you're across the country. Because I breathe out the air, it don't stop right here.
Yeah.
We're on the globe, and like this air is gonna circulate, and it really caused you to think. So I think it was stripping would be the word for it. It kind of makes
Mm.
it sits you down, it strips away all your distractions, and you see what life really is like today, right now. And either you're gonna like do better, or you're gonna be like, I just want to get back to the way I used to do things because that was comfortable for me. So
Hmm.
I
My
think,
sentiments exactly.
yeah,
Like,
that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, just had to reel it in and slow it down. Yep. We had no choice.
It's like, oh, look, let's look at this.
Yeah. So, what do you see for yourself in the future creatively?
Um, I always tell people my retirement plan is just to own like a plant shop
Mm,
and read books. So
yeah,
that's where I'm going. Like I just want to just chill and read and grow things.
that would be so awesome. I don't know very many women who are Black who have their own plant store. That would be dope.
Yeah, so that's what I'm working on now, figuring out
Hmm.
how to get there.
Yeah, that would be really great. Um, Let me see. I'm wondering. I think those are all the questions that I have for you today.
Okay.
But I thank you so much for being on the show. It's been great to learn about plants, and I hope the best for you in the future as far as whatever you're doing creatively, like your career path, and I hope that you fulfill all of those goals. Yeah, I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. But my last question for all of my listeners would be, how can we keep in touch with your plant journey? How can we support your business? And if anyone that needs a commission as far as photography goes, like how can we be in contact with you?
Okay, so if you want to find me for the jewelry, everything about jewelry is Wires by PQ. That's
Mm-hmm.
WIRESBYPQ.com. You can go
Mm-hmm.
there and shop. For Planted, to if you want to come learn anything about plants, I'm on Instagram as planted plant.ed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that. And if you want to hire me for shooting, just slide in my DMs at better known as PQ. That's BETTER known KNOWN as PQ. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.